Some months ago, one of our workers came, look, Dr. Becker, my neighbor has a monkey that is, he got as a baby, but the monkey now is growing up, is going in the neighbor's house and in the kitchen and make a lot of mess, and so the owner is afraid that somebody is going to kill the monkey. And when he showed up with the monkey, it was a howler monkey, which is very rare. It's a very rare species. The primatologists regard that there are at most 35, 40 specimens left. So it is this species is listed in the top 5 most endangered species in Brazil of monkeys, and in the 25 most endangered in the world. Is a young male, very tame, goes along with people like well, and so we are looking for a female. They are extinct here for maybe 60, 70 years. I asked the neighbors, they said, well, the last ones were shot in 1950s or 60s. People hunt, like the mother of this fellow who is here. His mother was shot and by a hunter, and the hunter took a young male as a pet. So these species, the individuals that survive, none of them are in protected areas. The only one preserved is the one here. At the beginning here we had lots of problem with hunters, because hunting is a tradition, People would get their meat from the forest, from hunting. So people were used to get in anybody's forest to hunt without asking for permission. So when we established the project and we created the reserve, we put signs and we talked to people that hunting was not allowed anymore because this is a reserve. But they didn't bother, you would get them in the forest, talk to them, but the next week they would be back. So at one time I was talking to one of my neighbors. So he said, well, there is only one way to deal with this. I said, oh yeah, there is a way to deal with it. Yeah, he said. How? He said, well, shoot the dogs. Buy a shotgun and shoot the dogs, because the only thing they praise and they respect is their dogs. The minimum wage here is around $300 a month, but some hunters, they pay $500-600 for a dog. So a good hunting dog is very expensive. Is an asset. So I did. I sorry for the dogs, because I think it's not the dog's fault, but I can't shoot the owner, so So we shot about a half a dozen, 8 dogs, and it stopped. So they were very angry, and they spread the word that would do some revenge. One time I talked to one guy, and he asked, is that true, you are shooting the dogs? I said, oh yes, because first it is a reserve, and now hunting is illegal in the Atlantic forest, even outside preserved areas. So hunting is not legal anymore. And the other thing, if you are not happy, call the Wildlife Service, because they told me to do that. The law is on my side. I want the wild animals to come close to where I live, because I want to see them. I want to see the fox. I want to see the monkeys next to the house. I want to see, the marmosets, the big birds, but if I have a dog, the foxes, the peccaries, the quatimundis, they don't come close. If you don't want your dog shot, go somewhere else. We have 350 species of birds in this mountain. Maybe is what, 1/2 of the American fauna, bird fauna. We have about 1,200 species of vascular plants so far. For example, 120 species of orchids, maybe, I don't know, 70 or plus species of bromeliads, and 200 plus species of ferns alone. So it's a very, this area has a very high diversity, maybe compared with the Amazon or even more. And for example, moths, which is my group, I have more or less 5,000 to 6,000 species in my list identified, but I estimate that that number can be easily double. That would mean that in the Sierra Bonita alone, we would have more species of moths and butterflies than the North American fauna, because the last checklist, the American, including Canada and the United States, is listed about 11,000 moths and butterflies. I estimate that the fauna here could be between 12 and 15,000 just in Sierra Bonita. For example, frogs. There was a young guy who did the inventory of the frogs of Sierra Bonita for his master thesis degree, and he found over 70 species and about 5 or 6 new to science species that were never known before, including one of the smallest frogs in the world. The adult is 8 millimeters, a third of an inch big. Of course, we have 1 or 2 undescribed snakes, and we have a good list of reptiles done. We have mammals. We have about originally we had about 6 primate species. Now we are down to 4. The puma, the cougar, it was almost extinct when we bought here. Now they are back, and they come on their own because their range is very. I think a cougar, the range is about 30 square kilometers, so they walk around a lot, and as they are nocturnal, they cross from one farm to another at night very easily. So these are back, including I had some problem with the neighbors, because one day one neighbor stopped me and said, "Well, you have to pay because your puma is eating my sheep." I said, "Well, it's not my puma. I have a reserve, and the puma, came on its own, and secondly, I think if there are pumas in the region, you should not raise sheep next to the forest. You should raise cattle, because and then I explained him, look, predators who look for food, hunt alone on their own, usually they don't take a prey larger than their own size. Only predators who hunt in packs, like lions or jaguars or hyenas, they take prey larger than they are because they hunt in a pack, in a group. But cougars and other, ocelots and the foxes, usually they don't attack a prey larger than their own size. So you should raise cattle next to the forest. And when the cows are going to give birth, if you don't want your calf to be eaten by the cougar, you should bring the cow next to your corral, and and have the cows with calves next to the corral, not next to the forest. Many people are giving up raising sheep around the reserve. They are back for 2 reasons. First, because nobody hunts them in the reserve, so it's a safe haven for them to come reproduce and to stay. So they go out when the food is not. So I explained. You see how it is important to stop hunting, because if there are enough peccaries in the forest, pacas and armadillos, the puma would, if the puma has enough food in the forest, they would never come out to eat your sheep. I have an aunt. She came here and to visit, and she asked, she said, oh, but this is a paradise, you know, this is so beautiful, so quiet, you know, so beautiful a place. Uh, how this idea came to you to, you know, to build all this? I said, because she's a devoted Catholic, very religious. I said, well, Tia, I don't believe in afterlife, and I don't believe in reincarnation. So if I want to live in a paradise, I have to, you know, to organize, to build my own paradise. Yeah, and I have done it.